The last train always ran late, but that night, it wasn't supposed to run at all. I stood on the empty platform, shivering under the flickering lights. The schedule board glowed faintly, showing 12:45 a.m. Train 1017. Destination unknown. That wasn't a real stop. I'd taken this route 100 times before, and I'd never seen that destination listed. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe it was fate. Either way, the distant hum of wheels echoed from the dark tunnel, and my curiosity drowned out my fear. The train screeched into the station, all silver and shadow, with no one inside. The doors hissed open with a breath that sounded almost human. No announcement, no driver's voice, just silence. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The moment I crossed the threshold, the world outside dimmed like someone had pulled a curtain over reality. The doors sealed shut, trapping me with the low hum of something alive in the metal walls. The carriage was lit by cold fluorescent lights that flickered just enough to unsettle. Every seat was empty except for one. A crumpled newspaper sitting neatly upright, as if someone invisible was reading it. I laughed nervously, but the sound didn't feel like mine. I sat down across from it, trying to shake off the unease. The newspaper suddenly slid down, slowly, deliberately, like a hand had released it. That's when I realized there was someone there. I couldn't see them, but I could feel them watching me. The train jerked violently, almost throwing me out of my seat. When I looked out the window, there was no tunnel, no lights, no city, just darkness stretching endlessly in every direction. My reflection looked pale and stretched, eyes too wide, mouth slightly open, but I wasn't moving. It was like my reflection had a mind of its own. It blinked a second later than me. It smiled when I didn't. The speakers crackled overhead, and a voice whispered, "Next stop." Nowhere. The words crawled under my skin. I jumped to my feet, rushing toward the next carriage. But when I opened the door, it wasn't another carriage. It was the same one. Same seats, same flickering light, same ghostly newspaper. I ran again, heart pounding, opening the next door. The same carriage again. I was trapped in an infinite loop. The train began to speed up. The windows blurred with streaks of shadow, faces pressed against the glass. Hundreds of them, screaming silently. I could hear faint sobbing from the other end of the carriage. I turned slowly, and there she was. A woman in a tattered red dress, sitting at the far end, her head tilted too far to one side. Her hair hung over her face, and her hands clutched something metallic. "Excuse me." I started, but she lifted her head with a snap. Her eyes were hollow, black, endless. She spoke, voice breaking into static. "You shouldn't have boarded." My chest tightened. I stumbled backward, but the floor pulsed like it was breathing. The train lights dimmed to blood red. My reflection in the glass now stared at me with a twisted grin. It mouthed something. "Stay." I punched the window in panic, but my reflection didn't flinch. It just kept smiling, as cracks spidered through the glass. I turned to run, but the woman was suddenly right in front of me. The metallic object in her hands was an old train ticket. Edges burnt, numbers faded. She held it out, and I realized my name was printed on it. How do you have that?" I stammered. She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, "Everyone gets a ticket. Eventually." Her lips didn't move. The voice came from behind me. I spun around, and the entire carriage was full. Dozens of passengers now sat silently, heads bowed, faces pale and empty. They looked drained, like wax figures that had once been human. Every one of them clutched the same burnt ticket. The hum of the train grew louder, vibrating through my bones. I backed away, tripping over a seat, landing hard on the floor. The conductor's door at the front suddenly swung open with a violent slam. A tall figure stepped out, face covered in a cracked porcelain mask, black uniform soaked in something dark. His hand rested on the lever beside the door. "Tickets," he rasped. I froze. He tilted his head, waiting. My heart raced. I didn't have one. Or maybe I did. My hand trembled as I reached into my pocket, and somehow, the same bird ticket was there. I handed it to him, praying it would end whatever nightmare this was. He studied it, the silence stretching unbearably long. Then, in a voice that seemed to echo from everywhere, he said, "Wrong train." Before I could speak, he slammed the lever forward. The train screamed, metal grinding, lights bursting overhead. The world tilted sideways as gravity failed. The passengers didn't move. They just stared blankly while the train derailed into the void. I felt weightless for a second, then everything went black. When I woke up, the carriage was perfectly still. No blood, no screams, just silence again. The train was stopped. I stood shakily and looked out the window. Fog, endless and white, like a sea of ghosts. A single platform stretched ahead, lit by flickering lamps. The sign read, "Nowhere Station." I stepped off the train, my breath fogging in the cold air. The platform was long, cracked, and forgotten. Rusted tracks vanished into mist. Behind me, the train hissed, doors closing on their own. I turned around just in time to see it slowly roll away, disappearing into the fog. But inside one of the windows, my reflection was still sitting there, smiling, watching me. I backed away until the train vanished completely. The silence that followed was unnatural, heavy, suffocating. There was no exit, no signs, no sound of life. I walked for what felt like hours, but the station never ended. Every few steps, I saw faint silhouettes, people standing still, waiting. They looked familiar, but when I tried to approach, they dissolved into dust. Somewhere in the distance, a whistle blew, the same eerie sound from before. I turned and saw the faint lights of another train approaching, slow and deliberate. Its headlights cut through the mist like eyes. My heart pounded. The board above me flickered again. Train 1018. Destination unknown. That's when I realized the horrifying truth. There was always another train, and it was always waiting for the next soul who missed the last one. I should have run. I should have screamed. But instead, I stood frozen as the doors opened once more. A familiar voice whispered from inside, soft and welcoming. "We've been waiting." My reflection stepped out this time, offering me a burnt ticket with my name still glowing faintly in red. I dropped it and ran into the mist, but the sound of the train followed. Wheels grinding, doors hissing, whispers echoing my name. I don't know how long I've been walking. Days, maybe years. The fog never lifts. The platform never ends. And every night at 12:45, I hear that whistle again. The last train always comes back. I just pray you never board it. Because once you do, it never really lets you leave.